Well, thank you so much, Brian, for this welcome and also for your inspiring talk. I jotted down quite a few words from it, very, very important key words. So I'm going to be talking about both integrating concepts of whole person and whole planet health, which is a very, I think, apt. We're at a point now where I think at NCCIH, we're very excited to be talking about this because up until now, we have talked about whole person health as being the center of or the core of our new strategic plan. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this. But this talk is a wonderful opportunity to extend these concepts and make a bridge to whole planet health, which I'm very excited about myself personally. So let's first talk about whole person health and what we mean by this at NCCIH. Let's see. No, it's not. No. So what do we mean by whole person health? There's two components to this. First is the whole person component, and then the health component, and they're related. So what do we mean by the whole person component? A lot of times when we think about somebody moving from health to disease, right? We usually sort of look at these diseases occurring in different parts of the body, different organ systems, the heart, the lungs, the liver. And sometimes we see problems occurring in these organ systems, and we think of them a lot of times in medicine separately. And we often treat them as though they are separate problems. But really, there is a progression between health and disease. Disease doesn't happen all at once. And very often what we see is that there are antecedents to this. There are things that occur before disease happens. For example, a person may for a time have a poor diet or a sedentary lifestyle. They may be under a lot of stress. They may have difficulty sleeping. And what we see is that these preceding factors underlie many of the chronic diseases that we observe. And so the same factors predispose to a multitude of problems, including hypertension, metabolic syndrome, even depression, obesity, even degenerative joint diseases. All of these things are occurring in the same individuals, and we often think of these as co-occurring conditions, but they really are part on a continuum. And the important thing also is that the path between health and disease is not only unidirectional. There are opportunities to reverse the process and to go from less healthy to healthier. But there comes a point where when some of the pathophysiological mechanisms are advanced to the point where it may become less reversible, in which case, for example, treatment with medication or managing the disease becomes appropriate. But I think we want to be clear that we want to address as much as possible the predisposing factors at as early a stage as possible. And how do we do this? We think that, and this is one of the areas where at NCCIH we're putting a lot of attention to understanding what we call a combination of self-care as well as multi-component interventions that address both psychological, nutritional, and physical components of these factors, these lifestyle factors that can lead to better health. So this is a tricky thing to do, obviously, to understand how to develop interventions that are both effective, but also scalable, right? Affordable, scalable, that we can apply to the population as a whole, not just to a few restricted individuals. So this is an area where at NCCIH, we're paying a lot of attention to this as to how do you do research on whole person health. So again, two components, the whole person, thinking about the individual as a whole, and then the health component, thinking about the opportunities to restore health, as well as preventing disease. So when I started thinking about this in terms of us extending this line of thinking to the health of the planet, it became very clear that you really can apply a very similar framework. So here, if you look at these two pictures, the one on the left is our beautiful, healthy planet. And the one on the right, it does not look so good. This is not the Earth. This is actually a picture of Kepler 1649c, which is an exoplanet that is in a different solar system. But it has a lot of similarities to the Earth. It is a very similar size, but its sun is actually not like our sun, a nice sort of stable. It's called a red dwarf, and so the amount of energy that this red dwarf emanates is extremely variable, and so this is not a good thing for this planet. So it's unlikely that there is life on this planet. But I thought the picture was evocative of what could happen to our planet if we did not take good care of it. And now, notice that the top part here is, I did not change what was for the previous sort of schema around the whole person health, in terms of that pathway between health and what we call, I'm calling here disease, which is first of all possibly not irreversible up to a point, but there may come a point where it may be irreversible. And then in this box in the center, I've kind of, put together the kinds of things that you might imagine would be the predisposing factors that may lead to disease. So on the left, for example, the healthy planet, we know that for the last 10,000 years or so, this wonderful Holocene area, that geological epoch that we're in right now, is characterized by some stability, right? Stability in overall temperatures that has varied very little, predictable seasons, and also stable sea levels. And we've enjoyed that. And this has really allowed a tremendous biological diversity to develop, as different types of animals, for example, have been able to rely on reliable seasons in order to time their migrations, their reproductive, behavior. But we now know that we are starting to see symptoms of degradation of this, with ice melt, with loss of natural habitat, extinction of species, ocean acidification, and also this imbalance of nutrients being transferred through the heavy use of fertilizers from the air and the soil to fresh water, which is a tremendous problem. And so, what are the behavioral factors that are in that kind of middle box that we have identified as being culprits? Just like poor diet, sedentary lifestyle, and chronic stress, we know lead to disease in humans. Well, we know a lot of them, right? Fossil fuel dependence, deforestation, monoculture, overuse of fertilizer. So what could we do about this, right? Well, this is really the solution to these problems is we've already worked a lot of them out. We need to reduce our carbon emissions. We know this. We need to plant trees, right? We need to change our dietary habits. We need to eat more plants and less animal foods. And we also need to recycle our wastes. These are not very complicated concepts, but they're tremendously difficult to implement at a societal wide level. So just like in people, it becomes a problem of changing behavior. Changing behavior in an individual is not easy. And there's a whole science around this, the science of behavior change. What are the obstacles for people to adopting different behaviors, especially when these behaviors are either costly or require an input of additional energy, right? So there's so many implications to this. So what could be things that could give the necessary boost or jumpstart or motivation, right, to change behavior? And there's a very interesting phenomenon that we are able to observe called the overview effect of people who go out in space. And this is very interesting. This says, a space philosopher, Frank Wright, wrote about this in 1987, interviewed a lot of astronauts who returned from space, that they observed that the fact of observing Earth from a distance created this tremendous both cognitive and emotional shift in the person's awareness and their consciousness, and also their own identity when they see the Earth from space. And according to White, everybody who travels to space experiences this, or there are variations, but there are themes that come back, and a lot of them are shaken by this. They come back. Some people experience tremendous grief. This was expressed recently by William Shatner, who was one of the oldest person ever to go into space at age 90, and was moved to tears when he saw the Earth. And so, in addition, astronauts who return from space are often more convinced of the interconnectedness of humanity, and a distaste for war and violence, and a desire to do something to improve the life of the planet, of people on the planet. So this is very profound, I think. And in the slide we illustrated ways that different perspectives on Earth. On the top here from the space shuttle, on the right here from the moon, and then on the bottom right, this tiny little blue dot pictured from the images from the Voyager from 3.7 billion miles away. So, but really, do you actually need to go to space? I mean, this is not something that can be, implemented at large, right, by the population, but there are other ways, right, to expand our awareness of our planet. And of course, one of these ways is to go into places where you can get a vantage point, right, on top of a mountain, or looking at the night sky, or looking at the ocean, or looking at going in a forest, right, and really experiencing the forest for what it is and how beautiful it is. The other thing that's interesting is, of course, contemplative practices, right, have been striving to expand human awareness for millennia. And so gaining an experience of the oneness, the interconnectedness, and the sort of global responsibility that we have as humans to take care of one another is not something that we are, of course, foreign to, but we need to explore ways in which we can cultivate this, obviously. And so I think that the observation that about the overview effect, I think, are extremely interesting. And I think that it would be really nice to study this in a more formal way, and to see whether there are parallels that we can make with other forms of practices like meditation, and to see what are the commonalities. So this graph Brian showed in his presentation, this is how at NCCIH we define whole person health. We define this as empowering individuals, families, communities, and populations to improve their health in multiple interconnected domains: biological, behavioral, social, and environmental. And there's a lot in this definition, and I feel like this is a definition so far that has worked very well for us. And we think that we can use this as a framework. And so for the first time, our graphic designer has created a new schema that now incorporates the planet into this. And I personally like it very much. I think that it really fits, and it really illustrates that as we translate back and forth, right? And this does not all go in one direction, right? Things that we do for the individual will benefit the family, the community, the population, the planet all the way. But then back the other way around, of course, what we do for the planet will benefit the individual. And also, I think it offers hope that this pathway that we're observing right now, which is so worrisome, of so many individuals whose health is deteriorating. And we're observing that, especially in this country. We have various epidemics of all kinds of things happening, epidemics of obesity, epidemics of depression, epidemics of suicide, of drug addiction. So this is a lot of suffering, right? That is happening, but also we're observing at the level of the planet, I would say, that it's, I think the parallel is clearly there, and the solution to both problems is inextricably linked. So I really encourage, I very much applaud and enjoy seeing what the Nova Institute is doing, all of these efforts that you're doing to get people together throughout the globe to start thinking about these problems and finding solutions. It's extremely important. And so thank you very much for the opportunity to present what we have been doing at NCCIH. And we really hope that we can make more links to what you are doing. I want to also say, very importantly, that at NCCIH, we're working closely with other NIH institutes, including NIEHS, the National Institutes for Environmental Health Sciences. And so we are really always thinking that way in terms of collaborations. And so we know that there's been a recent effort to put together a program on climate change. So there's going to be a lot of more opportunities for linking human health and planetary health.